What did you major in?
So I majored in computer science.
Should we do this episode in binary code?
Well, we could do it in binary code. Well, we could talk chat GPT and some of the neural network related stuff.
This episode might already be an algorithm.
We're deep fakes of each other.
Welcome to this episode of Bourbon Approved, where we talk to those who have succeeded at law and life, and we do it over very fine spirits with a great conversation. And today we're very honored to have the co-host, Mr. Charles Liu, who was on episode 1 of Bourbon Approved. It's been some time.
Episode 1?
Yeah, we're actually live today at his location called The Firm. So The Firm is a members-only whiskey bar. Charles, tell us what we're doing here today. What is this spot?
What we're doing here today is drinking. We're drinking.
There we go, and there
Yes.
you have it.
And
So it's a very lead-in to our esteemed guest. This is our guest today. We have Mr. Jack Newton on. And for those of you who don't know Jack, look him up. So Jack is the founder of a legal technology case management platform known as Clio. And it is, I think, the biggest case management platform, at least
That's right.
on users, on
Everything.
Everything. The biggest. You like things big?
That's biggest in the world.
Biggest in the world. So some 800-900 employees now?
Yeah, pushing 1,000.
Wow.
Imagine that overhead. Speaking of overhead, let's get to our first drink. So Jack, I brought it too, but something that is going to bring you back some. But this is Alberta Premium. This is a cask strength rye. This is from your homeland, which we're going to talk about Canada and Alberta. But this won one of the whiskeys of the year maybe 2 or 3 years ago, a limited edition. I'm going to pour this. I think I know why they had to make it cask strength.
It's a great whiskey.
And it's a screw top.
Oh shit! I should have only done about 1 ounce of this because it'll. You know how you start like a meal with a good base?
Yeah.
This is a
This
fucking
is a
good
good
base.
I think
Alright,
they
so-
generally mean like a food base, so
No.
we're going just
All right,
cast
gentlemen.
on.
Cheers. Thank
Cheers.
you for coming on Bourbon
Thank you for
Approved.
having me. Cheers.
Careful with this one. I think this will actually fuel the fluxer capacitor.
Ooh,
Wow, it's actually better than I remember. Must have been breathing for a year in here.
that's great.
So this is 66% alcohol.
Wow. Nice first call.
Jack, bring us back to Alberta. Why are they making whiskey that hot?
Well, it gets down to minus 40 in Edmonton, Alberta, which is where I grew up, and that'll warm you up quick.
I already feel it.
Minus 40 is that magic number where Celsius and Fahrenheit are the same, by the way. So it's fucking cold in either measure. And really, we've got Edmonton, Alberta to thank for Clio, by the way.
Why is that?
It's where me and my co-founder, Ryan Govero, met each other when we were 8 years old, grade 3, Rio Terrace Elementary School in Edmonton, Alberta. We hit it off immediately, became best friends through elementary and junior high school. Played tons of video games. We loved Doom 2,
Wow,
StarCraft. Back when you had to do a dial-up modem to play those kind of online games.
Did you ever get into RPGs?
We got into RPGs. Baldur's Gate was one of the first ones we got into.
That's a good one.
Which, by the way, is also created in Edmonton with
Really?
BioWare, one of the bigger software companies in Edmonton. And cut to, when we were graduating from university, we started talking about,
What did you major in?
So I majored in computer science, specialized in machine learning, ended up getting my master's degree in machine
Should
learning.
we do this episode in binary code?
Well, we could do it in binary code. Well, we could talk chat GPT. It's
man.
really cool to see some of the neural network related
This
stuff.
episode might already be an algorithm.
We're deep fakes of each other. Exactly.
He's not even wearing a hat. It's his avatar.
It's not far off. But I specialize in computer
Or is
science.
it far out?
My co-founder Ryan ended up going out to Vancouver for university, got his MBA at University of British Columbia, and then became the IT manager at one of the biggest law firms in Canada called Gowlings. And it was through his experience at Gowlings that we saw there was an opportunity to really bring technology to law firms, and the law firms, big or small.
What years are these?
So this would be around 2005 to 2007. We started thinking about what opportunity is there out there for really redefining and revolutionizing and disrupting an industry. Around 2005, 2007, in that time span, we saw the cloud emerging.
It's crazy to think, like, as I sit here today, I always feel like Clio's always been around.
Yeah.
Right, I just feel like this has always just been there, but going back, 2005, I was just starting law school. Well, I finished law school in 2005.
And what we were shocked by when we saw the emergence of the cloud and Salesforce was becoming really successful, there was 37 Signals and Basecamp on what they were doing for smaller businesses. When we saw this huge transformative impact that the cloud was having on almost every industry, we looked to legal and said, would this be an interesting place to apply cloud computing to? And we were shocked by the fact there was nothing. I mean, to your point, in 2005, there was a bunch of, frankly, pretty shitty on-premise software. Lawyers did not adopt it, and especially SMB, small to medium-sized law firms, which we kind of define as the 1 to 100 segment that we really play in most strongly.
So what is most of the users, the law firms that are using it? Is it those small, medium businesses or the huge ones on Clio? What's that like for you?
So it's interesting. We really started out with the solos, focused on the solos, because we saw them as the most overlooked segment in legal. And all those on-prem vendors were really focused on the AmLaw 100 because it's the only place.
What's crazy to me is like we do a lot of stuff with solos. That's what we call it. But I think that solos are the most gifted lawyers because they have the entrepreneur spirit.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and it's especially as an outsider to legal, I was my concept of what the average law firm was basically shaped by network TV and movies, right? So I thought the average lawyer practiced in a 500,000 person law firm in a big expensive AAA office space downtown, and then you look at the data. And it's actually shocking for anyone that's coming from outside the industry. It's shocking for a lot of people inside the industry. 80% of lawyers practice in firms of 10 lawyers or less.
Really?
50% of all lawyers practice as solos. They're just hanging a shingle, and they're the entrepreneurs of the legal space.
And it's getting easier and easier for them to do. By the way, this is burning my lips. If you put it on your lips, it actually burns it.
It's tasty, bro. It's delicious.
But
yeah.
I actually started with Clio as a solo with the assistant.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So, awesome.
So I'm gonna not do it, but I wanted to fanboy a little bit.
Nice.
I've been using Clio.
Do you want his autograph?
I got it already.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you.
Yeah, on my shoe.
Nice. Is that why you bought 2 pairs of shoes?
It's not about 2 pairs, yeah. But so
that was just your
big
thing.
fan of shoes are kind of my thing.
Oh.
Wait, before we get into that, let's talk about your shoes.
Oh well, I'm gonna.
That's the second part.
No, this is gonna be. This pairs with the
Oh,
whiskey.
then
These
don't-
boots
don't-
pair with
okay,
the whiskey.
I
That's
don't
what
want to
I'm
mess
talking
it up. But a big fan of Clio, and always was.
Thank you.
I have actually a question. Take it back, and you kind of jumped ahead, but to take it back, when you jumped into AI and machine learning, that was really just the thing of science fiction.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
no one was really doing that. There was people talking about it. What inspired you? Was that science fiction inspiration, or were you just one of those tech kids that said AI is going somewhere and I want to be ahead of
Were
it?
you just doing the Oregon Trail in grade school?
You're absolutely right about the timing, by the way. This was before AI and machine learning were cool. This was before Google or Amazon
Before
or
all
any
of
of those
it.
companies started pouring money into machine
You were
learning.
science fiction back when you went to school for it.
Yeah, it was science fiction, and what I was really inspired to go and study machine learning more closely was actually my first job out of school. So I got my bachelor's degree in computer science, got hired to be software developer number one at this University of Alberta spin-off company called Economics, and they hired me to code this software. And the software, the platform they were building was really cool. I'll describe it really briefly. They were using a nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometer.
What
Which
the
is-
fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
So it sounds complicated.
Have another
This
one.
sounds
really-
like a Homer Simpson thing.
So what it is a very high field, powerful version of an MRI scanner. So you think about an MRI scanner, you're applying that to your whole body, and it reorients the water molecules in your body. And then when they release the magnetic field, energy comes out, and they're able to see the energy that comes from the water density in your body and do all sorts of diagnostics. the NMR machine is basically the same concept, except a very strong magnetic field applied to like a 50 microliter biofluid sample. So that could be urine, blood,
You almost said semen.
Semen, you name it. Cerebral spinal fluid is another one of the fluids we studied quite a bit. And then with this one scan, you could potentially see 250 plus compounds with just a 6-second scan. And my job was, well, write the software that figures out what 250 compounds are in that spectrum.
Jeez.
So it's like therapies before therapy.
Yeah, but it was real. It was real. And what I discovered very quickly in this job was that I was vastly underqualified to solve this problem. There's a very interesting numerical optimization, but also machine learning problem embedded in there. And I was so captivated by the problem, I actually stood up a software development team, and then went back to school and got my master's degree to study machine learning.
So you were in your early 20s with this happened.
Yeah, that's right. I was in my early 20s. This was in the early 2000s. Now I came back to economics when I was done my master's degree, where I actually acquired a bunch of cool new skills to go and work on this. A very interesting fork in the road in my life, by the way, was deciding I was being recruited at the end of my master's degree to go work at the University of Toronto, get my PhD with Jeff Hinton, who is the father of neural networks and is the father of all this amazing stuff that's happening with DeepMind. So yeah, it was very like going to academia or going to industry was one of the major life choices for me early in my career. I obviously chose the industry path.
Well, don't you feel like you can change more going the industry path because you're actually there doing it rather than talking
And the other thing is, with a PhD and going into academia, and again, this was before any of the cool industry around AI and machine learning existed. So if you got a PhD in machine learning, you were really saying, I'm going into academia. And going into academia is really about choosing a narrow slice of some discipline and spending your whole life becoming the world expert in that narrow slice of that discipline. And I just worried, what if I get bored? And I remember going to the U of T and interviewing, and Jeff Hinton talked about the fact that over half of his PhD students dropped out, never finishing a thesis, sometimes 5 or 6 years into their studies, not finding a thesis topic to attach to.
And then what did they do?
Well, then they maybe go into industry. Sometimes they teach, sessional instructors, but it's a really expensive mistake to make almost, and you can't be guaranteed you're going to find the right thesis topic.
life problem too.
So I saw the industry path as, I get to choose my own destiny. If I get bored anytime, I can change my job. And what's been really cool about my journey with Clio is I'm 15 years into this journey now, actually next month.
Well, let's talk about the whiskey that you brought then.
So yeah, this is a good segue, but I'll be celebrating 15 years of Clio, but every quarter, my job is changing. It's a new job. It's I've learned how to grow a company from a 2-person company in 2008 to, an almost 1,000-person organization today. So that journey's been fun. That journey's been accomplished with the help of some great bourbon along the way. This is my contribution to our session today, which is the Whistle Pig 15. And you can see we're...
It's as old as Clio.
It's as old as Clio. We're making some good progress. They're both aging pretty well.
Yeah, it seems like you started early with this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Opened it in January to celebrate the year.
I mean, this is good. This is also one of my favorites. I mean, they do this one in Vermont. It's I think it's the only distillery I know that is in Vermont.
We've drank that before.
Oh yeah, we've had many of those. This is one of my most consistent favorite ryes. I'm not going to do as heavy as a poor gentleman just because I want Charles to be able to stand up after this.
Yeah, let's do that.
Or not,
Let's
actually.
keep me standing.
That's fine.
So yeah, that experience at Economics was really formative for me. It's where I caught the startup bug as well, and I realized I love building. I love the process
Isn't
of
that
taking.
the most exciting shit ever? People
It
like,
is. The whole 0 to 1
Yeah.
journey is just so
Peter Thiel, right?
fun.
0 to 1?
It is.
Yeah, Peter Thiel
Great.
talked about that, and it's such a amazing thing to create something out of nothing. And it's what I loved about programming as well when I got into computer science. This idea you can sit down at a computer and create something like Clio, out of nothing.
So a lot of people, I mean, they probably surmise, founder, CEO, biggest case management platform. I was like, this guy he's just a businessman. He don't code.
Yeah, I wrote the first versions of Clio.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that.
Alongside Ryan, he and I, were the sole software developers. You know what it's like in the early days of building something. You're wearing every hat.
Yeah.
First salesperson, first customer support agent, first software developer, and amazingly, there's still some of my code in production. So that's really battle-tested code at this point.
But that's why it's like I think of every law firms are all startups too, and the best lawyers I know, like you did, we started solos. You do everything, man, from filing your own complaints, making your own copies, and
have the info at your law firm.
Yeah.
So you're not
info at so
pick up the phone with a different voice.
Yep, exactly. Burner phones. No, but we used to skate, like my brother and I. He's my little brother when he graduated college. This was 2007 or 8, so right when Clio was started, 2009. We just had a big copier in there, man, and we were scanning. This is before people were payments were like, we're going paperless now, so we were just scanning in every piece of mail, just putting it into just like little folders. We had no case management platform.
Yeah.
We were just trying to wing it. Like we weren't on the cloud. If a server went down, and we were totally fucked.
But you see the value of paperless, though. I mean, you're like early in adopting that, and we were just, thinking about when we launched the company, it was a very interesting time. Steve Jobs had just announced the first iPhone.
Wow,
the
cloud.
cloud.
I think this was only 15 years ago.
Cloud was just something people were starting to talk about. We didn't even have a word for it. Remember, it was application service provider or web apps.
Was Clio a success out of the gate, or did you go through that?
Let's have a little. Let's taste the 15 years of success of Clio.
Hey, cheers to that.
Cheers to your company, man.
Thank you.
It's a journey, and it's a lot of war wounds, very likely.
It's a lot, but also a lot of fun. A lot of fun. But yeah, it was interesting, Charlie. We got, I think the timing right, and if it were a year or two earlier, I don't think it would have been successful. And if we're a year or two later, we wouldn't have been the first.
Right.
So I think that's a good amount of luck that goes into that. But one of the biggest risks we ever had with Clio, and everyone we pitched the business plan to was like, this seems like a great idea, but are you going to be able to get lawyers to wrap their heads around the idea of putting their data in the cloud and trusting a third party with their data? And again, we had what seemed like a pretty audacious perspective on that in 2008, which is, I think, now generally accepted truth. But we said, we can manage your data and secure it better than the average solo small firm can. Look at what the average solo small firm is doing. They've got, one server in a broom closet. You're lucky if there's a backup. You're lucky if there's a good firewall.
Security breaches. It's a high piracy rate these days.
Oh, and the data breaches, by the way, are almost exclusively data breaches of on-premise systems.
Really?
If you look at HIPAA, for example, where large-scale data breaches have mandatory data reporting requirements around what the root cause of the data breach was, 10 of the top 10 last year were physical data breaches.
Wow.
In the sense that, what I mean by that is, somebody leaving a USB key with 10,000 patient records behind at a security terminal. My favorite was there was something like 150,000 records. The second largest breach of the year was a hard drive being stolen out of the back of a truck on its way to a data destruction facility. Wow. So the hard drive's on its way to get shredded and gets stolen.
So what's their value? I always wondered, like, with these, I see people ransoming, like, pay us XYZ, we'll steal your data. But if somebody's, what is their use for all that data? Like, what is that worth?
I think it's all oriented around identity theft. You're getting SINs in there. You're getting all the key data. That's going to mailing address, social insurance numbers.
On the dark web of identities.
Yeah, it's probably being used for insurance fraud.
Yeah.
So there's value in that data. And again, all the major data breaches were rooted in physical data. So that was the one bet we had to make in 2008 when we launched Clio.
So you never had like the struggle sleeping on your brothers?
We struggled. Okay. It was not a hit. We saw enough success, but here's what made it tough. Even though the investors we were pitching to thought this was a great idea, the fundraising environment in 2008, 2009 was not an amazing time to be raising money. We were in the depths of the global financial crisis. We had investors. You rewind the clock, it even makes what we're going through today seem relatively tame by comparison.
Yeah.
Remember, people were worried the financial system, as we know it, was going to collapse, right? And
it's crazy on our end. Like the legal profession is almost insulated from these types
It-
of
it
recessions.
is.
It's crazy. Like
It is.
it's like we add value every time we look at it. That's why I invest mostly everything that I have goes right back into either real estate right where I am, but more importantly into legal tech on my firm
Yeah.
because it's recession proof.
Yeah.
It is. And we thrived
Historic famine.
through that recession, but we could not raise money. We grew nicely as a company, and we saw that the early adopters jump on. We had solos. I remember launching Clio. We launched our beta at ABA Tech Show in March of 2008
Wow, the ABA Tech Show.
in Chicago. So it was the first conference. It was funny, we were about to throw in the towel because we initially had started trying to sell
How
Clio.
big is your company at this point?
2 people,
Oh
me and
my
Ryan.
God.
Me and Ryan, and we'd spent the better part of
that's
the year.
Bananas.
2 people, we'd raised a total of about $100,000, friends and family round, valued the company at $1 million, by the way, so everyone's done well.
It's a typical number.
But just, I mean, your valuations in the B's.
Last round we did with Series E, 1.6 billion. So
They done well.
they've done well, and we saw this amazing response at the ABA Tech Show where some people came up to us and were almost hugging us, saying we've been waiting.
Wow.
These solos I was talking about that were waiting for somebody to solve their
Do you
problems.
think it was a generational thing too? I assume these were almost.
Well, it was a very polarized response, and it was partially generational, but not entirely. Where there was what Ryan and I called at that time the Facebook generation of lawyers that grew up using the web, grew up with Gmail, and they knew that the web was the future. And they, again, came up to us and said, thank you for building this. And then we also had people coming up verbally attacking us, saying, you guys are irresponsible to be offering a platform like this and inviting lawyers just to trust a third party. Who do you think you are? And again, it was this very polarized response. And it was honestly about 50-50 in 2008.
That's when you know you're onto something. If people are
Well,
so
exactly.
frustrated by it,
If you
man.
don't make somebody angry,
Exactly.
it's probably not an interesting idea. And so what we realized, and what was very interesting, by the way, was all the on-prem vendors, the Amicuses and the Abacuses and the Time Matters of the world, the LexisNexuses, they started seeding this fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or FUD campaign about the cloud too, with all their consultants saying, what if these guys go belly up? You're going to lose all your data. What if they get hacked? And
Was
there's
that in response to you?
in response to us. So that was also where we knew we were onto something.
yeah.
We've got $1 billion company in the form of LexisNexis and these big established companies like Amicus attacking us because they're afraid and they know they can't innovate anymore. And we realized at that point that we'd either get dragged along by this conversation about security and is it ethical and so on, or we can lead it. We can lead that conversation. So that's very much what we did.
And it's hard to do that with $100,000
Right.
because
So,
you can't control the microphone at that point.
so here's one of my favorite Clio founding stories. Is we're pounding the pavement, pitching every VC and angel we can find back in 2008, and again getting this kind of heartbreaking feedback, which is this is one of the best decks we've ever seen. We love the business plan. We're just not writing checks right now.
Yeah, we still have money.
We're
Yeah.
putting our heads in the sand.
Yeah.
Check back. It's probably like raising money right now, frankly.
Yeah. I've heard the saying if you're not in kind of this legal world, they're not going to do it. They're just
They're
gonna
not.
write
They're,
checks.
they're just putting their heads down and seeing
Which I think is a shame because I think this is the time where you actually.
It's a great time
honest
to
time
build.
make money.
With the benefit of hindsight, I realize there's still scrappiness in our DNA from being founded in a recession that is helping us today.
When did you found your firm? When did the Lou firm start?
Well, it went through a couple iterations. It went through an original one in about 2006, 7, and then we kind of postponed everything as we grew the restaurant group up to about 2014, 15. And then somewhat to your point, we've talked about this multiple times, but right around 2014, 15, we just noticed this vacuum for entrepreneurial lawyers or lawyers who were business lawyers who had actually owned a business.
Yep.
So rather than sitting with a lawyer who said, I'm a business lawyer, and they had never went through the payroll crisis. I always joke and say, if you've never not had money for payroll, then you shouldn't be giving business advice.
I want to make payroll.
Yeah,
next
how do you
month.
make pay? Well, I mean,
So
that's...
I think that we started my firm in 2010, started 2009, and started same thing with the recession. If you don't know those hard knocks, man, like I remember my brother would be like, shit.
How
We
make
didn't take a salary for a couple of years. We took
Yeah.
no money because we had to We had to grow, we had to pay our employees.
Yeah, you look at that bank account balance and wonder how you're going to make payroll in 2
payroll.
weeks. Like
or
that.
people would say, why don't you advertise more? And you'd say, I don't. And I used to always get that question, and I'd kind of laugh, it's kind of smirk to myself and say, well, we're barely, the literal lights are barely on. So advertising is a luxury.
Well,
we can't
let's talk
afford.
about a little bit of marketing and advertising. This is where we're going to go with this one. All right. The next whiskey I selected, this is from Sonoma Distilling Company. This is the California one, so we're taking you from
Okay.
Alberta.
I don't think I've
Canada.
ever had a whiskey from Sonoma.
This is because I don't think they do a lot of them, but this one we actually did for the Latte Gras edition. We gave this out at Latte Gras, and it has a little thing on it, so you can see where it came from. But let's talk about legal conferences, because Jack also has been one of the pioneers in community building. I mean, you're community building within Clio, and within Clio users, they have their own conference called ClioCon, which Charles and I are both big Comic-Con guys. We like comics a lot, and Dungeons and Dragons and all the weird shit. And the other reason is I wore those boots, which we'll talk about, because they do it in Nashville, and I'm very excited to get up there and with my Simon Longer
branded
Justice
boots,
Team
there you
branded
go.
boots.
Amazing.
So this happens when you get drunk at your sister's wedding in Austin. You come home with some branded
Some
boots,
branded boots,
that
I
show
love
up
it.
in the mail like 6 weeks later, and I love them.
They're incredible.
So tell us about ClioCon, the vision, how long you've been doing it, and how many people are coming now to Nashville. I mean, I was there last year. Fucking loved it. Going to bed again this year.
Yeah, we're really proud of what it's become. And like Clio, it had some pretty scrappy origins as well. We back 10 years ago looked at the legal conference landscape and felt like there was something lacking.
Oh, yeah.
There was...
It's funny, it's funny, we all had the same conversations.
Yeah,
Just you were in
and-
Vancouver, we were in LA, having the same conversation.
Yeah, there's just we thought there's shows like the ABA Tech Show, which I love. I'm having a keynote panel there this year. We launched Clio there, so special place in my
That's
heart.
the Sunday night event. Is that the one, the AV Tech Show?
That's right.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. Well, that's Startup Alley is the Monday night, I believe, and then we're doing a keynote panel on the Wednesday. Bob Ambrosius hosted that. We launched Clio at ABA Tech Show, and it's a great technology conference about technology for lawyers. What we felt, though, was there's room for a conference focused less on the technology almost as an end to itself, and more on how do you enable a new way of interacting with clients and running a law firm, and how do you think entrepreneurially about building a law firm? The business of law was something we felt was...
this in law school? I know you're.
Well, why don't they
on the
teach
board
in
of
law
Loyola.
school?
So he's in the board of Loyola. I'm at Pepperdine. We've been pushing this. I know you come back and teach and talk on it, but you have to be an adjunct or do some other. I think it's a big miss.
It's a missing opportunity, and never mind the business of law, but even something like learning how to use a legal practice management system like
I
Clio
know.
is something we think should be in the curriculum. And how are lawyers that are graduating and not going to work at a big firm going to be equipped for the real world where they need to hang a
They
shingle
should-
and run a business?
I mean, they should actually train, like to your point, law students. Because I always thought the best classes I had were the adjuncts that were actually practicing, and they were teaching the night classes, like the real stuff, like how to practice trial tech or trial advocacy, and then discovery and things like this.
Yeah.
Imagine here's how you operate your firm.
Yeah, here's how you operate your firm.
Why don't they do this?
And also just being a brand. I just taught Metaverse in the law.
Oh, yeah.
3 at Loyola. And the class was fairly equally divided between students who wanted, obviously, to speak about Metaverse, AI, Web3, but a huge portion of the class also was very, very interested in the entrepreneurial aspects of a practice and brand building. Because
Yep.
they'd say, how do we get business? And something you and I have talked about extensively. You really are only as good as your brand at the end of the day,
Yeah,
because
and
we
even-
can't market to the
100%.
extent that the massive firms do. So how do we all differentiate ourselves? We do that by brand building, which no one teaches you in law school.
No one teaches you. So that's exactly the opportunity we saw, which was, can we have a different kind of conference focused around brand building, focused around running a great business, focused around building a client-centered law firm, the client experience. And again, very modest beginnings. It was 200 people in Chicago at the Hotel Saks. I think it's a different hotel name now. We then moved on to the Radisson Blu in Chicago, which is a beautiful building. We had it for a couple of years in San Diego and then New Orleans, and now we're in Nashville, and the conference has grown to 3,000 people last year, and it's regarded as one of the best conferences in legal now, and one of the biggest. And
what I love about what you do is you also do the wellness.
Wellness is a big part of it.
Yeah.
It's something we really care about as a company, that we're trying to influence lawyer mental health, which is a big issue. We think there's a way that you can achieve a better life for lawyers, create better outcomes for clients, and increase access to justice if you execute on things well. And then we try to.
Mental health as lawyers,
It's huge.
Statistically, and these numbers vary. I'm on the board of Mental Health America Los Angeles, and we've spoken about mental health, even to the point where we've talked about doing one-day mental health conferences just for lawyers.
We're actually trying to do a Mardi Gras this year. We'll do a tech and wellness, like a mental wellness, quality of life. Because you're right, like I think lawyers are the number one for alcoholism, substance abuse, by multiples.
Fourth in suicide, second
Yeah,
has
it's-
depression.
It's a sad list.
Yeah,
And-
it's a bad list that we aspire to. Yeah.
And we think there's real opportunity for change, and we think, we don't think technology is a panacea, but we do believe that it can have a really profound impact on just improving the work-life balance lawyers can
I
achieve.
think unless technology is governed, which you're doing a good job, and Bob and I have spoken about it, but I think unless it's governed correctly, not only is it not a panacea, I think it actually makes it worse. I think there's a potential
What's a
for
panacea?
cure-all.
I'm not as verbose as you. I'm not a linguist.
No silver bullets.
No,
you know,
so
it's
exactly.
like lots of
Yeah, I
lead
get that.
bullets, though. We think technology can be a big part of that.
Yeah.
And help, for example, make you more responsive to clients.
Yeah.
Without meaning you're picking up your phone. You can have a distributed team text messaging your clients, being
I always
responsive
said,
to them.
I just never understood. I call communication on scale. I usually have multiple chat rooms open on my desktop with the monitor, so I can communicate to many people at the same time. I think phone calls, unless they're scheduled, are totally inefficient.
Yeah.
It hurts your client on the other cases because you can't be working on everything else because you're devoting, whatever. But
Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox.
And what we've tried to do with ClioCon too is just bring perspectives that are surprising and new to lawyers. One of the first ClioCons, we had Gary Vaynerchuk
Yeah, I saw
speaking.
Gary
You guys
V.
probably know Gary.
Yeah, he's
Gary
great.
V. And it was amazing because I know I've hit the bar for the keynote speaker, right? When almost nobody had heard of Gary V in the audience.
Sure.
Not a well-known guy
Wow.
to the legal community in general. Like guys,
we're not early
That's
adopters.
true.
guys like you,
Yeah.
yes, but the vast majority of the audience never heard of him.
Yeah.
By the end of his talk, everyone's like, "Who is this fucking guy?
Yeah.
He's amazing, and I'm going to sign up for every channel he publishes
Of course.
content on."
Well, business, these things, ideas, they transcend.
They
different
transcend.
industries, but
He-
we're so
he
stuck
talk-
in our legal space.
He talked
We
about
are.
building a brand,
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about, Charlie. Building a personal brand, building a brand for your law firm, being authentic, being yourself.
Yeah.
All these concepts that lawyers kind of realize are inherently true and valid, but against a lot of what they were taught about by their peers and maybe even their mentors.
We're told in law school when you start that first job, you can't do this stuff. It
Yeah,
makes you
you
look
can't.
bad. You can't
Be a
look that way.
professional.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone's walking around with this persona of what they think being a lawyer is.
Yeah.
And Gary Vee did a great job of busting that. We had 2 years ago Seth Godin talk
Yeah.
about marketing. One of the lines he gave that was amazing was he talked about becoming an expert in your space. Even if it's a vanishingly small slice of the law, you can probably build a really great business there. And he said nobody woke up in the morning with a billable hour problem. No, don't advertise yourself as somebody solving things by the hour. Solve real problems for your clients, and they'll come to you. So it's just such a
We see that called
Refreshing.
They call it niching up or niching down.
yeah.
I think every lawyer should be either specific. I look at baseball, you do analogies all the time. You need a left-handed pitcher to come and strike out a lefty, you got that in the bullpen, right? If you need someone to do motion running and specialize in that toxic tort, that's your person. And specialize. People should brand. It's an easy brand.
Yeah.
Nobody's competing for that specific space enough. That way you can have guerrilla marketing for a solo. Get in and fucking do it. And if your ops are cured, if you're on the
Exactly.
same systems.
Word of mouth,
Yeah.
just that flywheel. So it was an incredible experience for these attendees. So we've just seen the flywheel now where people are telling each other you need to go to this conference. The second reason we did the conference, was to, we felt something was missing. And the second thing we realized was as our ambitions with Clio got bigger. So I talked about our origin story where we started out just me and Ryan really helping solve the needs of solos. And then we grew to 2 and 3 person firms, and then 4 and 5 person firms. And now 30% of our business is from firms in the 20 to 100 plus segment.
Wow.
We've got firms that are several hundred lawyers using Clio. So we run the whole gamut of
So
size
what's
now.
their work like? If they onboard lawyers or legal staff at these big companies, do they have like a super user for Clio? Do they onboard them? Do they have a
Yeah,
workflow?
we often have like a train the trainer program where
Yeah.
there's somebody in the law firm that is deploying. I mean, change management is a huge piece of being successful with deploying a tool like Clio. So you need to be training and also just creating buy-in in the teams. These large scale deployments, can be tough, especially when you have, in many cases, lawyers that have been doing things the same way for decades, just digging their heels and saying, I'm not using that newfangled iPad you just put on my desk or whatever. The change management.
And this is a
can be
big
hard.
thing for conferences. So, I grew up to go to the same conferences for trial lawyers, hear the same speakers talking about the same shit. I started to venture out when you go to things like ClioCon, where they're talking tech and integrations. It was the first time I walked through. I spent most of my time in the vendor room.
Isn't
That's
that
never
wild?
like that. I usually avoid it like the plague. I don't want to like.
Oh, and our vendors
It's
talk
different.
about that too. The exhibitors
best.
there, like, we can't believe the engagement we get because people are wanting to get. You're not getting lured down there for the lunch or the drink
Yep.
like most conferences, right? Like people are legitimately going down,
Spend most-
wanting to learn about what's
Well,
happening.
And this is what I think. I talk to a lot of people about attending conference, and I think it's a very good thing for the person relationships.
Yeah.
Especially if you're, our level, you're running companies, you're founder of these companies. You need to be there to meet people on scale. Again, to be able to take all these meetings with the people at the same time. It's a good opportunity for me to go with a lot of, vendors that we partner with at Justice HQ or the law firms that we do cases with, and everybody's there at the same time. It's just it's an efficient thing to do
Yeah.
to do that. But also, like, go meet people, go learn. That's, I think, for solos, especially in small firms, you have to put yourself out there because they'll remember you if you're a lawyer and they say, oh, I saw you at ClioCon, you're in Nashville, you're in Tennessee, I'm going to refer you that case, right? This is how I do relationships.
100%. Yeah.
So
It's a huge part of it. And creating that community, and creating, that's one of the main reasons we started Clio. We continue to invest in ClioCon. By the way, we lose money on ClioCon. This is not something, you know how hard it is to run live events profitably. Not an easy thing to do. We don't even try. This is about creating community. And what I was saying as we went through this evolutionary journey, Clio, me and Ryan started it really trying to build a lifestyle business. We thought maybe this thing gets up to 4 people.
It's good.
Maybe it gets up to 4 people.
Look at it now, like
Maybe this
1,000
thing,
people.
maybe this thing throws off $100K a year for each of us that we can live off of, and that would be a win.
Right.
That was kind of our initial ambition, and then our ambition got bigger as we started to see the opportunity out there. But we also saw the opportunity. We initially approached Clio just saying, "Hey, let's throw this across the fence and see if this is a useful tool for the lawyers we're trying to serve." And then what we kept getting pulled by was the lawyers coming back to us saying, we love the tool, but we want you to tell us how to run our business well.
That's what it is.
They want us to be almost prescriptive.
Yeah.
And like, look, I learned how to practice law,
So-
but I don't know how to run a business.
So how are you going to adopt that machine learning through Clio to help people automate that kind of stuff? It's
What-
kind of talent.
I think it's a massive opportunity. You're gonna be able to look even at a firm's books and make recommendations on where they could be streamlining their operations. You could be looking at here's the integrations you should be using that we've seen from our base of 150,000 customers, which with your kind of profile, which integrations are going to help you improve profitability, which integrations are going to help you drive up your utilization rate, which integrations are going to help you drive up NPS.
Or based off of this is where you can qualify for more funding so that you can
Exactly.
earn that
Like
fund.
you're going to be able to have a view into the financials. So AI, we're just seeing the first hints of what's going to be possible.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the great things about conferences like ClioCon is the personal relationships. The first time I ever met you in person
That's right.
was in Nashville at your conference. First time I ever met you was actually at our adoption charity, which we had a
It
board
was
meeting
at our
brought together by
adoption,
adoption. But yeah, so I'm going to let you introduce the next one here. This is a special one because you know what Jack likes and you found.
That's your Lagavulin.
That's my all-time fave.
So this is a single malt, Isle of Isla, which is also your daughter's
Youngest daughter.
name.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of Scottish heritage in my family, and we named Isla Not after this Scotch, but
Which would be cool.
Maybe conceived
Yeah,
with the Scotch. I don't
it's
know.
possible.
Influenced. by the Scotch.
Influenced, yeah. But always loved the name.
And interestingly enough, from the actual village of Lagavulin.
That's right.
Wow, I did not know that.
So, big, smoky, peaty.
Well, next year when Cleo's 16 years old, maybe we can get Jack.
Oh, that's a
We could
great
do
idea.
that.
Lagavulin 16.
We should actually go to Lagavulin for your 16
let's do
years.
that.
Let's do it.
Let's make that
Okay.
happen. Yeah.
Circle the calendar.
Well, as you pour that, I mean, Jack, so you have 3 kids, and Isla's the youngest, and they're all, what, the youngest, 11 or 12?
Isla's 10.
10.
Patrick is 12, and Ian is just turned 14.
So these were littles during the growth of Cleo when it was a two-person shop.
Well, this is what made the first years of Cleo, and frankly the last 15 years, just go by like that.
Yeah.
Where we had Ian in January of 2009, just after launching the company, and that's a white knuckle experience. Having kids and starting a company. I joke in my Twitter bio is running 4 startups: Cleo, Ian, Patrick, and Isla, and
funny.
it certainly felt that way. But it's interesting. One of the
Oh my gosh.
this is a good one to finish.
This feels
with.
like you are at the campfire. And
punch you in the face.
Yeah,
wow.
it
Cheers,
feels like
gentlemen.
you're chewing smoke.
Cheers. This will be to
Cheers.
technology and family.
There
May
we
they be
go.
married together
Yeah, to
forever.
technology
Make
and
it
family.
efficient. Oh man, this is good. It's a good smell. I'm not a smoke. You know this. I'm not a
I
big
know
Scotch
this.
guy.
Yeah, but we're gonna fix that. We're
I
gonna
love this one.
remedy that at some point.
Holy crap.
Isn't
good,
that
though.
Something
Holy
else?
crap.
Isn't that something
But
else?
it's balanced. The peatiness is balanced.
Yeah, it tastes.
a little sweetness, very rich back.
Yeah, it's
I've never had anything like this. Holy
There
crap.
you go.
it's wild.
I could get into this. Okay.
So
But you've changed my mind. I'm
There we
converted.
go.
well, the thing about
Conversion.
family though, it's almost a there's this hustle culture with startups that's often like, hey, you've got to build a company at the expense of almost everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have kids, maybe not even a wife. Like you just need to be all in on your company. And it's interesting. My wife and I, when I was starting Cleo, she started talking about wanting to have kids, and I was like, well, let's punt on that. Like, not that we're never going to do it, but let's just wait a while. But she was, pretty persistent, and asked me the question, which was the right question, which is, if not now, when?
Yeah,
When is this going to get easy? And she's 100% right, as she usually is, and just said, I think now's the right time. And what I realized with the benefit of hindsight is it did feel like there's a lot of balls in the air, but it was so energizing and rejuvenating to have kids, and to have somebody just go home put down the smartphone and play, with a newborn or a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old or.
I never thought about it that way, but it's like a mandatory reset for you.
It
to
is.
Get out of this.
It's a totally mandatory reset.
And you run every day.
I
Is
run-
that your escape?
So that's my almost like meditative practice. I just, I love streaks. So 25 streaks, like where you're marking an X on a calendar and keep.
Wow.
Not that I love streaking. I love streaks.
Streaks.
I thought it was a Frank the Tank moment.
Marking an
Yeah.
X on a calendar and keeping that streak going. And so, about 25 years ago, I was like, I'm going to try to keep a running streak going as long as I can. And I got a week under my belt, got a month under my belt, got a year under my belt. At that point, you start having like cold sweats waking up in the middle of the night. Like, did I miss my run yesterday?
Wow.
Retracing your day. And, oh, no, I got it in. I'm good.
Wow.
And 25 years later, still, and it's great, even though I'm traveling for a pair of shoes.
Wow.
You
a
came in
year.
from Vancouver to LA
Yeah.
last night. Got
Yeah,
your run in.
got my
Santa
run
Monica.
in.
How far do you run?
So I try to.
2 feet, 6
It's a fairly easy.
So
streak to
here's the
keep up,
rules.
yeah.
Basic set of rules. Minimum of 2 kilometers,
Okay, that's
which
a
is like
run.
maybe
yeah.
a mile and a half. Minimum. Even if I'm sick, I've done it after surgery.
Wow.
If I'm feeling like hell, I'll still get 2K, and that's the bare minimum. I try to average 4 to 5K, and I'll run usually 1 half marathon per year.
Wow.
And train up for that. So it's like kind of a half-hour-ish run is what I shoot for every day. And again, it's great. Just like kids, you're getting away from technology. You're not in front of a screen. You're not on a phone call, and it's just you. And I love running outside. I hate treadmills. Just disconnecting. And
Yeah.
I live on the North Shore of Vancouver, which is one of the most beautiful places on earth. You're able to get on trails and just get away from everything. It's pretty hard to beat.
So was most of your team in Vancouver? How's that?
We've got a few hundred people in Vancouver, a few hundred people in Toronto, and those are the two major technology centers in Canada. Toronto's actually, incredible now for tech talent. Lots of big U.S. companies like Salesforce have big offices in Toronto now. So great recruiting ground for us as we're looking for people that have been to that next scale of success. We're starting to recruit in San Francisco. We just hired a new COO and a new CFO that come from SF and are able to bring some
you
incredible
just went right in new people in the C-suite.
New people in the C-suite just over the course of the last year. We've done
We'll
a
talk
big.
more about that off camera, but that's
just went through a big upgrade on that front. They're bringing in some incredible people. We've got people all over the U.S. working for us as well, all the way from SF all the way down to Miami, Florida. We've got Dublin.
That we have to do a quality control check on.
Yeah, we got to make sure your operations.
I think we need to do I feel like we just
QC,
scratched the
yeah.
surface today. We'll have to do another episode in Dublin.
So the last thing we're talking about is kind of this evolution where ChatGPT, the AI that's entering the legal force, and kind of want to get your thoughts on it because I get this from actually one of my Irish barrister friends. He's freaking out about it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the end of the world. It's gonna do blah, blah. I'm like, bro, this is like the best gift for us as a lawyer.
I believe that.
See? And I'm like, well, he's like, well, what's your thought process? I'm like, dude, where else, if you can master this and be able to be so efficient and scale with AI, like you can be really fucking efficient, man. You can have an associate on the cloud that's doing things for you if you learn how to
Absolutely.
do it. So it's like if you're niched down, if you're specialized in it,
Yeah.
and you have these systems put in place, bro, like I say, you could be practicing in your underwear in the Maldives if you wanted to.
I would believe the same people that believe that it's the end of the world would be the same individuals that you spoke to 15 years ago that screamed data privacy
That's right.
issues. So it's just again, from my perspective, this continuing fear, uncertainty, doubt. The legal community, as we've talked about 100 times, entirely reluctant to change because the people in power wanted to remain in power, and all of these technological advances jeopardized that power base, that structure. And I think AI, I saw it when I spoke and taught at Loyola this past semester. The AI is a monumental opportunity. And I go online, I write for Forbes, I go online and I write, give me a 500-word educational standard article based on artificial intelligence improvement on the practice of law.
You know what's weird? I taste hot pepper cheese, jalapeno pepper cheese when I drink this. It's one of my favorite things. I think that's why I like it. I didn't interrupt you, but shit.
They say
hold
that
on,
on
I
the
gotta
bottle.
say.
Hints of jalapeno cheddar cheese. Right
There's
on the
ones that
bottle.
come in like the 5-pound blocks and you just cut
I
them
get the
down.
jalapeno cheese.
all right,
I mean,
okay.
I can never say that as a Scotch connoisseur, but I could say
Well, I'll
it.
be the real nose.
But
But you're right. The capabilities are incredible.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is ChatGPT. This GPT framework they built was
Yeah.
version 3 6 months ago. It's going to be version 4 in another 6 months. And what we're seeing with ChatGPT is version 3.5.
yeah,
And just the exponential increase in capabilities we've seen, even from 3 to 3.5 in 6 months. And we're going to see another exponential leap in 4.0 when it comes out later this year. And we as humans are just really poorly equipped to understand the concept of exponential
Yeah.
growth, right? As just demonstrated with COVID, as just demonstrated in, we're just not built for it. So, your lawyer friend is terrified,
yeah,
should understand that I think there's really two types of reactions you can have to this technology. There's people that think about where they're at in the value chain today and how do they preserve their spot in that value chain. And this is whether it's AI or regulatory reform, it's all the same stuff. It's all the same shit. And people just figuring out, how do I preserve my spot here
Absolutely.
by defeating anything that's trying to unseat me, as opposed to people that think about, how do I leverage this development, whether it's regulatory reform or ChatGPT, as a way of moving up the value chain and create more value for my clients, make me more valuable, help me make more money, help me create more impact. I mean, that's the way I think everyone should be
I think
looking at
everybody
ChatGPT.
should be looking at. I always looked at historical trends and try very early on to predict where things are going to be in 5 years. Like we talk about this a lot. Like I predicted that the non-lawyers owning law firms and the technology are going to rule.
Yep.
I've been saying this for years, and finally, it started happening. Like, oh my God, we're so scared. We're like, bro, we built our firm to insulate ourselves from that, and in the future. So why not?
How do you leverage it? You've been thinking,
No shit. We
how
talked
do
about
you
this
leverage
morning.
it? Exactly.
Well,
And I
unlimited
think
money coming into this and
Yeah.
our practice. I mean,
how can
we
I
were-
create competitive advantage for my practice
And
when this happens?
And here's
not
the big
if this
thing: at the end
happens.
of the day, who wins? The consumer, the client.
consumer wins.
If you have less costs and less hours and you're an hourly lawyer put into stuff, or if you're a contingency lawyer like I am and you can be more efficient with your time, huge win.
But we were ignorant, to a degree ignorant, but more so we were foolish, I think, just to believe that we would be the practice of law would be this last bastion of finance and Wall Street. I mean, finance and Wall Street is now imbued in every single facet of every single business, and we had built this moat around ourselves with law by only allowing lawyers to own law firms. So I think we were on a timeline, and that timeline has now become.
I know some of the most poorly run businesses run by lawyers. I know some really good ones run by lawyers, but if you give somebody that's a controller that understands business and they come in and run your firm, why the fuck would you not do these things?
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
You know, Sam Altman was interviewed just yesterday about ChatGPT, and it's not just lawyers that should be thinking about this. He talks about something that's going to disrupt capitalism.
Yeah.
You know, and have transformative impact on society. He's probably not wrong.
No.
But, you know, as a lawyer, look at it as a minimum of like, this is where I'm going to get my shitty first draft for a lot of work. And that's going to help me become more efficient. I'm going to become better. It's going to have a ocean of research and knowledge and precedents to mine from to give me that first draft and iterate from there.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get better.
Even to the brand building question or analysis, I put in for, again, these Forbes articles, I put artificial intelligence impact on the practice of law, the evolution of law, 500-word academic style article, and ChatGPT kicked back a 500-word article that I kind of looked at, and my first inclination or thought was, well, I could do better. And then as I read on, I was like, oh, maybe not. this actually might be better than, but it did it in 30 seconds.
Edit a few cuss words, but this is Charles Luke.
And that's 3.5. Just wait for 4.0.
Just a couple rambling thoughts, and it would have sounded exactly like me, and it did it in 30 seconds instead of a day.
You always look and see what is like Google threatened by.
Yeah.
What's on their roadmap.
Yeah.
And they looked at a while at the legal space.
Terrified.
They actually looked for, I saw what they were trying to do, and then got these other things had more fires that you had to take a look under. I love it.
Can I ask you one question? Because you coded your original company. And one of the things that I remember, we've spoken about Elon before, people were somewhat mocking him and saying he can't code, or his coding was so rudimentary as to be childish. And of course he came back and said, I'm the richest person in the universe, which is a very strong response to anything. So you coded some of your original coding.
Yeah.
And you said it's still in use.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think of Elon as a coder?
Well, I have no idea how well he can code, but he's clearly a great engineer. I think if you look at what he's done with SpaceX, for example, taking an industry that was, you know, hugely inefficient in the way that it did what I would call the waterfall method of software development, except with spaceflight. He was able to reduce the cost of manned spaceflight and unmanned spaceflight by 2 orders of magnitude. And that's by pushing, I think, an iterative, fail fast, experiment kind of mentality. And I think that's the great engineer that is embodied in Elon
huge
Musk.
Brand awareness thing that he does. I think people are just wearing SpaceX shirt. They
Back
buy
to
the
brand.
It's crazy.
Yeah, well, we're back to
Yeah,
brand.
absolutely. He did an interview on YouTube, was giving a tour of.
Is this the one where he's smoking weed the whole time?
No, that was Rogan, wasn't it? This was he was giving a tour to this YouTuber. I forget his name. Is a well-known YouTuber, giving a tour of Spaceport and talking about the process of getting Starship up and running and the iterative process they've used and some of the principles they use in designing it, even in terms of the fact that if there's an assertion that an engineer is making, for example, that you can't, the spacecraft can't do X, it can't be written in a document somewhere and treated as truth unless there's an engineer on staff saying, I support this claim and I'll go and debate with whoever wants to talk about this claim. Because he talks about the fact that knowledge can get dated and incorrect so quickly that you need you can't just trust what maybe an intern that you hired 3 years ago wrote in a doc as a basic truth. You need to constantly be challenging that thinking and have people
I think it's important
on the team
to change your mind too.
To be able to change your mind. And that's exactly at the heart of what I think is is great engineering thought from
social
from
engineer,
Elon.
even if not a computer engineer, is an exceptional social engineer.
Exactly. And in this, in this episode, he talks about an example of building the Model 3 when it was in production hell, and one of the most expensive things they had to engineer out of the process was this steel plate that was under the battery.
Yeah.
And he asked why the steel plate was there, and he went and talked to the battery people, and they said, well, the designers said it needs to be in there for noise reduction. And then he went and asked the designers why it was in there. So, well, the battery people said it needed to be in here to protect the battery in a collision. And so he pulls these two groups in a room and is like, "What? Tell me why this steel plate's here. You're both pointing at each other, saying that it's a requirement from the other, when in fact it's not a requirement from either." And he ends up discovering that this is a completely
Obsolete. Wow.
completely unneeded part,
Right.
that he was able to save like literally hundreds of millions of dollars in
Wow.
the production cost of these cars, and take one of the key things in taking the Model 3 out of production hell was an understanding, this dysfunction that can exist in organizations all the time. And that's some of the learning he applied to SpaceX as well. And I think that why those organizations have done. That being said, I think what he's doing with Twitter is kind of sad.
Yeah.
But he is a great engineer in a lot of ways.
Well, we're big Twitter fans.
The tweeter.
I love Twitter.
I actually don't go on it very much. My social media team does my posts for me.
Oh, do they? Did they really?
Well, we
Even
talk
your
about
Twitter?
it, but
I need
the
a social
Twitter
media
one they do
team.
Really?
because it's a little more tame there. I feel like I can't be as. I
You're-
can't. I don't think they'll give me the login for my Twitter.
You're a
because
little
it'll
more
get really
rambunctious
bad.
on
It'll be-
Instagram.
yeah.
Yeah.
The stories are a little bit like. Ugh.
They're a little
Sometimes
more.
they'll like text me like, "You need to take that down." Like.
So by the way, there was one story about Clio. I only got halfway through that I wanted to finish before we wrap up today. It was about fundraising for Clio. I was talking about fundraising in 2009 and getting no's from everybody. But then this email from a German investor who ended up leading our first
Was it David
investment round.
Hasselhoff?
It was not David Hasselhoff.
Oh, damn.
Guy named Christoph Jans. But what's hilarious is he a friend of mine, and this is also why serendipity is so important sometimes. A friend of mine says, "Can I write a blog post about Clio?" I was on this blog called web2.0central.com. I say, "Sure, no problem. Write this blog post, and I'll, at worst it's some Google juice, which was valuable at the time at least." And he writes this article. Ends up that Christoph reads this article. He just sold his company to MySpace, actually, the MySpace
Tom,
group.
my friend Tom.
He sold it to Tom,
Wow.
and had just become an angel investor. He writes this cold email to us at info@goclio.com at the
I
time.
still get all those info ad emails.
Says, "My name's Christoph Jans. I'm an investor. I just sold my company. I just invested in a company called Zendesk,
Oh, wow.
back when it was like 4 guys in Copenhagen." He then says, "I want to learn about Clio. Want to potentially invest in Clio," and so this email, goes right to spam. He sends this cold email and it goes into our spam folder. So we're using this early version of Google Apps at this time. And I think because Christoph emailed us from a web.de email address, emailed us about an investment opportunity, this just ran all of Google's spam flags, goes straight to spam.
Right.
And so what's great is Ryan and I inadvertently slow play Christoph by not responding to this email. Sends another
It's a
email.
power move.
It was
Tech tease,
inadvertent power
you know.
move.
Power move, yeah.
Sends a follow-up email 2 weeks later saying, "Hey guys, I'm not sure if you saw my previous email, but I'm legitimately interested in investing in Clio." And in what I'm not a religious man, by the way, but in what I can only describe as an act of God, Ryan one day is on this customer call. It's lasting forever. He's bored out of his mind. Decides to check out what's in my spam folder.
Wow.
And sees this email from Christoph, forwards it to me and says, "This actually looks legit." I look at it, it's like, this does look legit. Follow up with Christoph. Cut to 6 months later, by the way, with my wife 8 months pregnant, I say, "Can I get a day trip to Berlin to meet with Christoph?" We fly out, meet with Christoph. He ends up leading Clio's seed investment round of $1 million. And again, this was in the backdrop of us pitching what felt like every North American investor and getting that seed stage. And he's also the guy who talked about us pivoting our mindset to being more ambitious. He's the one that was really influential in helping us think bigger about what the opportunity for Clio was from a mission and impact perspective.
And that's what the strategic investors that can help you push you forward. Now, Jack, when you 2008, we're in with 2008, 2009, you're struggling to raise funds, $100,000 taken in, people telling you no. How much has Clio taken in investments in the past 15 years?
So we've raised about $350 million over the last 15 years. What's really incredible, though, and what I'm really proud of, is we've only burned about $120 million of primary capital in those 15 years. We've been extremely capital efficient. You look at what most companies spend to get to our revenue scale, to get to our scale overall, they're spending 3-4 times that. This new CFO I talked about, Kurt Sigstead, that we just brought on, he's SF based, worked in investment banking at JP Morgan for 20 plus years, has taken over 80 companies public. He looked at our financials and just said, this is incredible. I've never seen a company that's been run this capital efficient to where Clio is today in terms of revenue scale.
Partner, right?
And that scrappiness, like I talked about being born in 2008, 2009. You know, I feel like a hardened veteran of the SaaS space now. You know, vertical SaaS is a real category. And there's a lot of founders going through what we're going through right now that have never been through a recession. And, you know, I've seen it, and we've never been the spray the money cannon around kind of company that I think a lot of startups have been over the last few years.
Well, Jackie, give to tech nerds the 30-second of where Clio's going in the future and what you foresee for legal industry and technology and the confluence.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if I think about Clio's growth story as really being in 2 chapters. The first chapter, you know, was our first, I would say 12 or 13 years, which was really focused on bringing practice management to the cloud, helping automate the back office for law offices, helping make them more productive, and helping them embrace the cloud. But I think when we talk about the broader opportunity, and this is the second chapter we're starting on now that I'm super excited about, you know, the cloud is not just about productivity. This is not just about provisioning and deploying IT more efficiently than we did in the past. I think the really interesting opportunity here is transforming the client experience, really delivering a different kind of cloud experience to clients. I think legal is still the last major industry to be fundamentally transformed by the internet, and we're going to help drive that transformation. Legal demand is starting with a Google search today. You know, it's not consumers driving by a billboard on the interstate that's making them decide to call a lawyer. You know, we don't need a memorable 800 number. You and I were talking about this earlier today. We need to figure out how do we attach to that Google search and give lawyers the confidence, give consumers the confidence that we are the best lawyer to work with, because we get technology and we're going to be able to deliver an effortless client experience to you and working with us.
And make it real easy for those lawyers to practice law, not worry about their bottom line.
Exactly. And that's going to create work-life balance for lawyers. If we execute on this well, we're increasing access to justice, and we're improving client outcomes. And I think there's a real win-win-win that's possible there with the help of technology to improve lawyer livelihood, to improve client outcomes, and to improve access to justice.
And the big part of access to justice, not only for the client, but also for the lawyers that their passion was at law school to go and to do civil rights or something, but they feel like they have to go put on the golden handcuffs somewhere else.
Exactly.
Unable to because.
And by the way, back to that mental health and substance abuse problem, I think it's that disconnect that's at the heart of a lot of it. Where, you know, I got into this for a reason.
Yeah, we can't do what we want to do very often. We're guided or more driven by economic necessity than passion.
Yeah, and we chose a new mission statement about 3 years ago to transform the legal experience for all is our new mission statement, and that's the next chapter of our technology.
We got to end this with, Jack, we have to ask you, you've had all kind of different whiskeys. I mean, we've had from Scotland to Canada to Sonoma to Vermont. So we have to ask you, what is your bourbon of proof?
There's a real world tour, but you know, I'm gonna have to go with the Lagavulin.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, that is
It's a win.
That is my favorite. It reminds me of my daughter, the Isle of Isla.
Of course.
It's, for me, the sweet spot in proof is kind of in that 80 to 90 range.
That's what it
I
is,
think
too.
it's 86, is that right?
86, there you go.
So it's right in the middle there. I find higher than that, it's a bit of a punch in the face. Still recovering from the Alberta premium.
It was a good base. Well, Jack, thank you for coming on. And speaking of 86, we got to 86 you the fuck out of here. Thank you
Cheers
for
to
coming on
that.
Bourbon and Proof, man. It's been
Thank
a
you,
pleasure.
Bob.
Have a safe
Thank you,
flight.
Charlie. That was great.
It's empty.